to be a woman that's experienced men of different cultures approaching you. Me being my psychology nature would always analyze what made me stop and talk to him and not stop and talk to him when he might be more handsome. Why did I stop and talk to him? And it was the guys that I would stop and talk to and kind of give the time of day is their self-esteem did not depend on my response.
Racial preference when it comes to dating is something that is rarely talked about.
Yes.
But when we ran our matchmaking agency, what I found to be so interesting is that was typically the first thing that we were told.
Wow.
So before we would ask, and this is all across all age, before we would talk about religion, before we would talk about anything, they would say, okay, I'm interested in someone who's white. I'm interested in someone who's black. I'm interested. So do you think that racial preference in dating makes you a racist?
No, I don't think so, because whether you admit it or not, you have it. Yeah, I think everybody has it to some extent. Now, I think for men, their racial preferences have been hijacked by pornography. So it's hard to tell. But I think the average person, when they say they prefer a particular race, usually what they really prefer is an element of being able to be themselves around that person. Sometimes it's the same race. Other times you'll meet some English girls that would be really attracted to black men, but they grew up with some similarity. Maybe it was the music, maybe it was the culture, maybe they grew up in that environment where they were. So their preference is more their values, but values tend to have a color. And as a result, they navigate it through that. Of course, looks and preference does make a difference, but I do think there's a familiarity in values that comes with color that might be the driving force slightly more.